Hey, what is up, everybody? Hunter Orrell here, and today we are joined with Bold Leonidas. He's an artist, a comic creator, market commentator, and honestly, one of the more funny people that I've had on the show. But he's blunt. His opinion is his opinion, and he's not afraid to speak it. And you'll understand that it comes with the area that he operates within, which is kind of being able to speak on the market and the events that we've seen happening on Web3, crypto Twitter, or on chain, and basically call out people if they are scamming, call out people if they have been rugged. And if you're being a fool, he will possibly draw a comic about you. Um, it's fascinating to kind of get his insight as a non-daily trader. He does not consider himself an expert trader, but looking at the market through a different lens of an observer, and somebody who, again, is analyzing what is happening and then putting that out as a mixture between analysis, a meme, and art. Um, I enjoy this conversation. We obviously also get into some strong opinions on individuals and different dynamics within the market of whether we have topped out or this is just the beginning. But I think it is always important to hear different people's point of views and their different opinions and be able to add that and test your own hypothesis for the market. I'm very grateful that he came on the show and again, one of my favorite artists, if you don't know that, and I hopefully one day will have a PFP from him. As always, thank you for tuning in and watching. It means the world to me. And hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation with Bold Leonidas. I'm joined with who I consider one of the best market commentators, and one of the, I would say, the most humorous market commentators out there, and also who I would consider to be one of the most coveted Grail PFP creators out there as well. Bo Leonidas, who has been doing market commentary through his art for the last, I mean, what, 2 years, maybe even more, three. I think you got involved in like 2021. Um, and yeah, man, you have kind of established this incredible brand and this market commentary that everybody looks to every day.
It's weird because I don't see me,
Right.
if you know what I mean. I don't see me as part of a timeline. So I never think of myself as a market commentator. I just think of myself as that kind of like, I guess exactly like the picture, just this kind of guy who's just happy to be here, if you know what I mean. So I never really recognize the size. I still think of people as really big. And then I look and I notice they've got like 24,000 followers. And I'm like, oh, they're huge. Like, wow. And then I realize I'm now at like 70K, and it's kind of this weird thing. I don't think it's kind of still dawned upon me that I say things and
I
people listen.
I there are a ton of people who listen. And I think it's in the humor of the commentary that you make because it's blunt. I would say it's very, very blunt. And you have a different lens, I think, of looking different events. There's so many to go through. That I mean, I think the best place to start here is like when you're drawing these. Obviously, there's reactions to all these. There's you're eliciting a reaction. There are good and bad. And one of the ones that came up at the beginning here was around like your being anonymous, and you brought up Razmir. I'd love to dive into that just right off the rip.
Look, the whole vape cabal thing, like, it's so funny to me because having been, and I'm kind of like, it was something that I hid at first, but kind of having been a high school teacher for like 12 years and mostly having taught 16 to 18-year-olds, Rasmus obviously, and Thread Guy and that sort of crew are obviously like a decent bit younger than me, for the most part. Although I actually looked up and Banks is actually much older than I thought. Um, but it's just this thing of they're like these just teenage. They're just like my students. That's what it feels like. And I used to rip into my students the whole time. Like I would have actual zingers. Like I'm very surprised that I didn't get into a lot of trouble when I would zing the kids, like the students back. If they came at me with something, I'd always have something loaded on each of them. And so like, but obviously some that would go through my head, and this is the thing, people say this about kind of comedy or anything like that. So many things go through your head that are so controversial or so unacceptable before you kind of settle on one that hits the vibe correctly. But when I was teaching, obviously, like a kid can't, you can't have a kid offend you and then be like, I slept with your mum. Like, so you can't hit them back with these ones. Whereas like Rasma came at me the other day, sort of for being a shit trader or something. And I just zinged him back, like instantly had something that I was like, okay, this maybe isn't like the bold vibe, but like I've got it loaded. I'm just gonna go, and it was like the ratio of all time. And then he pulled out and called me ugly. So it was very much like being in school. To have somebody call me poor then ugly was really something to behold. It was a beautiful thing. But it was funny, like he and I messaged afterwards, and he literally just sent me a message that just
Oh
said,
my god.
"Be
Wait,
nice."
is the interaction the one about the only thing you've been is that the one? It's this one. I'll just pull
Yeah,
it up
yeah,
for those
yeah,
who
yeah.
that aren't aware. The whole interaction is quite good. It's beautiful. Um, absolutely ratioed here. Where I mean, he came back and said, "Sorry, it's skill based. Skill based. You might need to get a day job." And you hit him back with, "The only thing you've been inside is a trade." Um, I can I it would be interesting being one of your students. I can only imagine the zingers that you were throwing out in the classroom.
Like the very first day I had in class, I was like, as a teacher, I'd gone from teacher training kind of thing, so I did like a straight maths degree, and then I kind of converted into a teaching thing. And I still remember being told, kind of, you need to be in command of the class, you need to be in control, you need to show, like, assert yourself. And one of the tips that I got off this guy who had this real like tendency to just absolutely zing kids, and he was generally quite a popular teacher, but he could go hard at the right ones. And what he said was, you need to take out the class clowns. You need to control the class clowns, and if you control them, you control the room. And I went in on the first day, and I had some Rasma type kid in there, and he came at me, and I blasted back so hard, and I hadn't kind of noticed it, but like the kid was in tears. He was in like year 11, so he was like 16, and I just hit him back so many times that I hadn't realized I got him into tears, and I got pulled up like first day of teaching. I get pulled up into like literally the principal's office, and I'm the teacher, and get pulled up at the principal, and they'd be like, "We've had some reports of you basically bullying kids," and I'd be like, "Oh, right, okay." And I'm like, "Okay, so I've got to tone this down a bit then." So like, it's always been my tendency to be able to kind of clock people back like that. So I think on the timeline it kind of works well. And equally knowing when to shut up. Like he hit me back with a crap one, and you just go, "Okay, well I'm not gonna keep this because it's
Yeah,
not
it's like
entertaining them
bullying a
either."
child.
Like as in,
Yeah, no, I get
what am I gonna say? Like,
it.
well, yeah, it's just like you just got to take the big ones when you get the big hits. And I kind of laugh when the kids would hit me back. You see, with the big, if they got a good one in, you just respect it. You just go, "Oh yes,
Oh my
come on,
god.
man." Like it's just good. Like they get you sometimes. Like the students would, and you'd be like, "I can't." You just got to clap it.
Have you
Like
have you gotten
you know,
have you gotten that I mean,
and
one
respect
question
it.
that I've had is because we don't always see, like, what your DMs look like, but some of your commentary is kind of it claps at people. It can be seen as, like, a diss on somebody maybe rugging or, somebody getting drained after, like, touting their security, how good they are with security. But you know, I always wonder, like, do you get a lot of negative reaction on the other side of, like, featuring? Because there are some people who would, are celebrating being featured within your art, and then there's others I would assume are like, "No, fuck you, take this down, this is terrible, like, you're an asshole."
I've had very few. Some of my favorite ones are people like Ansem, who he bloody reposts it, even if I am absolutely flat out calling him a scammer. He reposts it and like DMs me like Lamo, like he just knows how to ride this wave of attention. Um, and I think in general, because I kind of ride the line as opposed to outright, like it tries to be something clever at least that kind of pushes the envelope without jumping over the line. But the couple of people who've blocked me have tended to then leave Twitter shortly afterwards. So like Zoran Cole blocked me. If you remember his arc of like the full bearish arc. And there's a few others that have been bigger accounts, but they block me and then they leave Twitter. So it's kind of like, oh, okay. But actually, I mean, I don't know how many people have got me blocked. I've got more hate recently than ever before. It's weird. For someone who I guess doesn't openly talk about tokens or whatever. My thing is I'm just meant to be like a side dish to your crypto Twitter. I'm not meant to be the person who you look to for sort of coins or charts or anything. It's meant to be that I am like the literal comic in your newspaper. And so it's interesting that people would be like, "Oh, fuck this guy!" Like, what? I'm kind of like, all right. I don't really like. I guess it's when I rub people up the wrong way if I talk about something that they were over invested in and it crashed or whatever. I was seen to be grave dancing. Like there's one who I will remain nameless, but I posted a couple on a coin a while back. It was do you remember Satoshi when he released the MF coin? And I posted a couple, and holy shit, that was the most single comic that got the most rage, to the point where I was like, this is actually net negative now. Yeah, it became like a I just deleted it. Like within 20 minutes, it was bombarding. Like it was good too, but it was like I think it was because I think the token had gone down so significantly so fast, and there were a lot of people who really had hyped it up at the top, and I kind of called out that because I was on a space and people were talking about it going to billions and blah blah. Whereas you got the likes of like you got the Vape Cabal, who I don't think they know how to ride with me because I'm just this like old guy. It's kind of like weird because they're these like cool young dudes, whatever. And I think if they bumped into me in the street, like,
you're forming the UK cabal, UK Beans cabal.
Yeah.
Which I wanted an invite to. I didn't get an invite to the LA Vape Cabal. I'm a little disappointed by that, even though I don't.
The UK Beans Cabal is royalty only. It's we got Kobe, we got Lawrence, we got Cold-Blooded Schiller. There's a few more. Lupify apparently is British as well. What's that about?
Apparently so. I would
no idea.
I would pay money to see a trade-off between the LA Vape Cabal and the UK Bean Cabal. I would pay for front row seats to that show. It'd be phenomenal.
I think the truth is, if you actually took the word like "bro" out of their stream, you probably cut the time down by like 50%. If you cut a couple of the words out, you could probably condense it down to being quite interesting. But it's largely like and like
what
kind of noises and like doing that handshake thing where you kind of make the clap sound with the handshake and then tap them on the back. That if you cut those out. I don't know.
Did you watch the Aiden stream at all? Did you see any of the clips that came out of that?
Legit, I honestly I felt like the oldest man in the world when I put that stream on, because I put it on for 30 seconds and I was like, I cannot do this. Like I can't bring myself to do it. And that is actually the way with a lot of spaces that I go into. I go into a lot of spaces and I feel totally out of touch as I hear. Sort of, I guess this like blind enthusiasm and whatever for things that are just so off the radar for me. Like as in every day I see people posting spaces on like Rune's ecosystem, and I'm like, I cannot fathom who's in there and what's going on. But yeah, no, it doesn't make sense to me. I guess having seen, again, I have a familiarity with it because of students, but having seen students watch like streamers and let's play, where they're streaming games, it makes total sense in a way to me because they're watching high level expert players. Like I remember obviously during COVID where we had that whole kind of ninja vibe, and there was a real like bust and boom of streamers at a high level streaming games. I found that interesting because on a technical level, like I know Ninja was a very high level Halo player, transitioned to being a high level Fortnite player. Made sense. What doesn't make sense to me is when you just have them in just their life and they are just fucking walking around like the Kardashians, and I'm like, I never quite understand how devoid your life must be of entertainment if you must watch somebody else just living their own life. Which it sounds like a brutal, harsh thing to say, but that's what we're
But
doing
I mean,
right
we
now.
we see more and more of that coming out though, of like people are interested in what other people are doing in a far more immersive way. Like instead of just like looking at Instagram originally, which was like a single moment in a person's life, and people are very curious about like vacation photo of you on a beach. Now you can experience and you can see like what was the actual in real time experience of that. And I think that's becoming more normal. Instead of like watching TV or reality TV, you can just watch a stream of somebody, and we're transitioning to um a more on demand version of entertainment, and there's no barrier to entry anymore. You don't have to have a TV network behind you. You just need an iPhone with an internet plan. I would.
I think it's what makes me feel like a boomer. Like, as in, I realize I can see what it is. And I remember that transition from being, when I started as a teacher, I was 21 and the students were 18. And I was closer in age and sort of everything to them as students than I was the old guy in the corner of the class. And it's funny, as each year would happen and the students would kind of stay the same age, and I'm there getting older and becoming this more like jaded, the grumpy, like, teacher in the corner, and you realize you're like, what's this about? And I still remember students describing deep fried memes to me, right? And me going, right, okay, so sorry, and this is funny, why? And I remember that being this kind of moment of like, ah, shit, like these are a complete different generation now. Like, and sort of this all fits into that category for me because I've always been a massive film fan. I actually used to run like a movie review website, and I used to go to the cinema like 5 times a week, literally, and just review films. And I had this all right little website set up. But for me, content creation. So you went from movies, and then obviously we had the kind of Netflix era, which we're still somewhat in, where they're just throwing money at making these TV series, which are somewhat at the standard of films, but they're just the amount that is generated is just so high. And then you move to people just streaming their life. And obviously, the amount that you can generate, in theory, is for every person. You can generate 24 hours of content, like in a way, because you can bloody film yourself sleeping. So what you've got is, for me, I love this like high curation stuff. Like in a film, you've got thousands of people working on a film to
Yep.
produce 2 hours of stuff. You've got thousands of people putting in thousands of hours to make 2 hours. Now, some of them suck, and the film sucks. And then you go to the next level down, which is like series, where obviously there's probably they're blagging out scenes a lot more. Like, fuck, I remember watching Game of
Yeah.
Thrones and being like, oh my god, like you
Yep.
could have condensed this shit down. You're just having a conversation in a room for 45 minutes for the most part. Like, and then you get like the lesser versions for me, which is like reality TV. And this is where you're getting a lot of content from much less time, and you've got one editor just working his ass off to put it together within a short time frame. And then you've got the next level down to me, which is like streaming, and it's just content for content's sake to a certain extent. And so I didn't, me coming from the film, this like as my thing, and films as my sort of bread and butter and my kind of love, to this like streaming thing, it just feels so far, such a distance from me, that like my understanding of it isn't great. And like people suggested I stream and draw the comics, and I was like, why the fuck would anyone want this? And yet people do find it interesting to just hear like streams of consciousness, essentially.
Yeah, I agree. I
Don't find
mean,
the time.
I totally get that. It is the commentary on the market. It's a very curated, insightful look at an exact topic. I think it captures like and I told you this, it captures what like the topic of the day usually is for me. I'll look at it and be like, yep, that was January 30th, 2025. Like that was it. If you were to ask me what I was talking about that day, that was the topic. Um and I think that's maybe why.
I think I realized the explosion of content, I think, was never more pronounced to me than when one of my friends, she got really into CrossFit, right? And it was insane. It was just obsession. She was already fairly fit, and she just became like bloody ripped. It was insane. And she was saying to me, "Oh, like I listen to these CrossFit podcasts," and I was like, "The fuck? Why are they? What?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, there's loads." Like, and started recommending me CrossFit podcasts. And it was at this point I realized that any interest you have, there is now infinite sources of content within that tiny niche field. And to a certain extent, crypto is just like that. Like I say, there's runes spaces. There's if you have an interest, you can find because of the internet and because of the interconnectedness, almost endless content on that thing.
What do you
And
think it takes to stand out though?
yeah, it's
Because you've clearly figured it out for yourself what it takes to stand out in a sea of massive content.
um well, it's funny. It's funny you say that because, and this is kind of peeling back the curtain a little bit, on my stuff. But I guess why not? Um, but Jupiter, uh, as a were a. I mean, you can literally see this on the timeline. Like, I don't need to sort of. This isn't kind of peeling back the curtain as such, but they were patrons of my comics, so they essentially sponsored me to put in a character, right? Jupiter, who have all of this endless money, and I would say, as a content creator, as I sort of say it in inverted
Mhm.
commas, KOL, right? I I retain creative control and I do the comics and that's it. And I don't let them dictate what I do. And Jupiter were totally fine with that. But what they actually said, the reason that they ended their patronage is they wanted video content. They wanted more video content. And that has become a theme with me, is that people actually want video content. So they want those TikTok videos that are just short, sharp, to the point, like that one with Jesse from Base going kind of viral and him going out into the street and giving $50. They want that stuff now. I think these bigger brands, because hitting TikTok, Instagram, whatever, is a lot more important for them than Twitter, which is, I guess, probably everyone on Twitter already knows Jupiter exists, right? I don't think they need to grab Twitter. And this is the problem with me, is that I don't work necessarily as content on
You
TikTok, really,
no, I think anything works on TikTok.
in
No,
the
no,
way
no.
that
I
I
mean,
do it.
you're the videos of you drawing. I mean, even just now thinking, and you might have to work with somebody on this or you do it yourself, but like the drawing of the comic and then commentary over it on like that actual topic, that works phenomenally. Or it's just you drawing and it's a time lapse or yeah, like I think things like that you have a perfect fit for.
It's more so, I guess, what you're saying is to go back to the question itself, which is what does it take to stand out within these fields where the like you say, the barrier for entry is so, not the barrier for entry, but the ability to enter is so prevalent. Like, everyone has access. I think I think it's that classic like Venn diagram thing of, you have to hit the right niches with the right stuff. So for me, like, yes, I was lucky. Don't get me wrong, because I sat there for months trying to come up, and I do genuinely mean months. I'm not like sitting like a Zen, with my legs crossed, like meditating on it. But I kind of was, to a certain extent, of like, where's the gap? What isn't somebody doing? And so what I essentially do is a mixture of news, shitpost, and meme, and art to a certain extent. So you've got up to date news. It's kind of a shitpost. It's kind of a meme, and it's art that's done by hand. And so my whole point with it, when I did it, was I saw people posting memes, and then these slop accounts stealing them if they were good, and with no credit given to the original creator. So you could be a small
Yep.
account with 400 followers come up with an absolute banger meme, and then an account with 100,000 followers rips it. And then you go into the comments and you go, hey, that was my meme, and no one sees it. So what I thought was, well, if I've drawn it, then everyone's going to know it was me. So if they steal it, people
Yeah.
are still going to be like, hey, that's his. And so that was why I went to kind of drawing it out completely. Like I could make decent memes and I could make them fast, obviously with pre-existing templates, but I didn't feel like I was gonna get anywhere with that. It wasn't going to produce great results. And what it allows me to do now, obviously, is I can retackle a meme and kind of put a different spin or theme on it. Instead of it being what it was, I can add an extra frame to it, or I can. So if people have got any understanding of memes, I can sort of morph that. I'll change it a little bit and sort of add my own spin. And like, for example, instead of you having to label the random person Trump in a meme, I draw Trump, and it feels instantly more sort of easily connected to. So it's that thing of niche, but it's not just niche, it's hitting the Venn diagrams that are going to make you stand out. For example, like in terms of with to speak to Ninja in the Fortnite thing, even though obviously that's now an old example, but that was a really obvious like niche because he was so good. He was good at he was entertaining to watch, but he was the highest level of the game, and he was doing it for a long, long time each day. And once you hit those three things, as long as it's working and you keep hitting it, that's it. It's like bamboo. It grows under the ground and then it goes up 30
Yep.
meters in 3 months or whatever. And that seems to be the same for a lot of people. But what I see quite often is people who are hitting the drum and believing that perseverance
It's
is the
not
only
though.
thing. And you see them, you see them over and over again, and they're saying, "Oh, I've been doing this thing every day." But if it's not catching steam after a good while, or if the idea is just not there, it doesn't matter how much you throw in. And I think that's the thing. People get frustrated because they think, "Oh, perseverance is all I need," but it's not. It's the little Venn diagram as well of what are you that everyone else isn't. Like, and for some people, it's just that you're first or you're early to something, and therefore you're the one. But like, you even like, for as much as I can shit on the
I was
vape cabal,
that's a great
like,
example.
or laugh at them, like they are hitting such a niche. Thread Guy has rotated through as he's found what is going to click with people and entertain people, and he's realized. I honestly think he enjoys it the most right now. That's what it seems like to me. But not only that, I think he's undoubtedly making the most money he's
For
ever
sure.
made.
For sure.
Undoubtedly. There is no way that the Andrew Tate interview, which you can argue would be his journalistic peak in a way, whether you like Andrew Tate or not, I don't think anything he does now in this arc can compete with the level of notoriety of that. Right? You can argue that Aiden Ross is big, but I think he will struggle because he's now moved into what I think is a very profitable brain rot content creation, right? And he openly kind of almost accepts that. And as much as he can talk to all the AI founders he likes and have intelligent feedback and what, he is a platform that is what I would almost call like the brain rot type platform. Now, of like, wait, this is all crazy, and it's always going to be headline grabbing because he's going to grab the big people because the biggest people are now going to turn to him in crypto, and it's big enough to be big, but small enough to be rugs and then become a headline. Like that's what's constantly happening there. So they're going to stay in the eye. They're going to stay in the eye of stuff, and you've got so much money behind them now.
Do you think that he should
Yeah,
continue what he's doing, or I mean, because one thing that for me personally I've found is like in previous cycles or previous ventures, like if you get comfortable and you're doing really well, that is the most dangerous time. That is when you get complacent and you let other things around you start to keep pushing forward and being aggressive and innovative. Um, what do you think he should do though? Do you think he should keep doing what he's doing, or
I think he right. Thread is a super intelligent guy.
he's
He
yeah
he actually like was at business school, right? He this isn't like he's not stumbled onto this. He's not. This has been planned. This has been the move. I remember his tweet saying he's moving away from the long form podcast because of the effort it was taking. Like, obviously he had Iggy, he did Andrew Tate, and it became almost like a joke of like every person who'd show up in crypto at all who was large, he would just pop up underneath being like, I will fly to you anywhere in the world and do a podcast. Like, that was like Threads thing for a while there. And that was super, super smart to get this platform. And then once he's the platform, to a certain extent, you're going to get like that has come to him. Like, I do not doubt that in future, that kind of zone, that sphere of influencers, if they embark into crypto, which sounds like it was the Ansem way, but Thread's now the onboarder, really. Yep. Thread is but in a different way to Ansem, where it's kind of jokingly that it was just the day that people made a token, they give Ansem a DM. Thread's a bit more like he's going to like show you how to use Jupiter. He's going to do whatever, and he's going to do it live on stream, and your audience is going to see it. I do see him as like the onboarder, but no, I don't. As in terms of where he goes from here, it's a really interesting debate because it all depends. Are we at the start of a bull market or the end? Like,
and that's why I asked if you watched the Aiden stream. That's why I asked you about the Aiden stream, because at the end of that stream, Aiden's like, this feels like we're at the end here. And the entire group around him's like, oh, we're just getting started. We're just getting started. And for the first time ever, or maybe not first time ever, because I don't watch Aiden Ross that often. But I'm watching this all play out. I'm like, Aiden's this is asking like an actual very smart question. I feel like everybody else in the room is just screaming like up only. It's just the start. And in some contexts, yes, like I get that. But
the small clips I saw, Aiden was genuinely asking the smart questions.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was really impressed with Aiden.
The small bit that I saw, so I saw the bit, and obviously I actually didn't do a comic on it because I think it would have been somewhat shitty of Frank trading the coin behind Aiden, because that was what everyone was saying. And I actually thought it was getting kind of it was getting like death threaty, like it was getting kind of a bit crazy. So I drew it and I didn't publish it. But I had like Aiden like buying it, being like, why is the token going down? And Frank behind him just hitting sell. But Aiden had, I honestly think, a genuinely really good point, which has gone through my brain, which is, what is bigger than Trump? Trump, you cannot deny that Trump drove the Sol price up. Trump released, and Sol literally catapults from like 180 something or whatever it was to like 290 within the day, in line with Trump, the coin pumping, which is the president. Like, you cannot ask for a more beautiful top vibe. Like, you cannot. That is the peak top vibe. Like, if you want things to continue past that, you are jacked up on hopium, like, in my opinion, because what can top that? The only other thing is like an Elon coin, arguably, because we're crypto Twitter, and but I still don't think it's as big as the president having a coin.
The president of the United States is hard to top.
Yeah. Like, but this is it. In terms of Thread and all those guys, and to a certain extent, all the sort of content creators and all this stuff, their success and even my success is dependent quite a bit on the continuation of essentially the trenches more than anything. Because Bitcoiners don't really give a shit. They just kind of hold it, and they just kind of. I know that there's a whole pocket of Twitter, which is Bitcoin Twitter, which when you kind of find it, it's this weird thing of like, oh my God, I don't recognize any of these accounts. Like,
I know, it's crazy. Where have you been?
There's these whole pockets of stuff, but I think for me, Thread and those guys, as long as the trenches, they are the trenches. They are the embodiment of that, because they are the ones who the news headlines come from. Hey, this guy put in 5 Sol and made 50 grand and or $1 million or whatever. And as soon as the trenches start slowing down, I wonder what that content all starts to look like, as you don't have these crazy wild things happening each stream, like the AI boom and Thread just getting on AI creator after AI creator and all those coins going wild. And now they're all crashing back to earth. And even Thread himself said he's down like nearly 7 figures on his GOAT position and all this stuff. And it's like, unless you've got something to spin that content factory up, it's not going to matter how hard he works.
Yep.
Because if the market as a whole, which he doesn't control, changes, you have to be able to adapt and I wonder what that looks like. I think the main thing that survives between markets more than anything is exchanges. Whereas coins, but for Bitcoin, just look at Ethereum as we move from one market to the next. The sentiment of it from the last bull market to this is just abysmal compared. Like, you cannot get complacent with these things, and you cannot get complacent when it's your career. Like, for me, I genuinely, like, I fear so much every day that it's over, but I have to consider that could be a peak for now. And so what do I do? Well, I just keep doing what I do, and the sort of trading side of things.
I feel like we're at a point now where there's so much happening. Even if we were to enter into a bear, and let's say, and I think in a bear case right now, we don't see like another 2 years. At the most, I see 9 months at the most. There's still going to be the people that they're basically doing whatever to make profit. And there's going to be dumb things that happen, or there's going to be funny things that happen. Or somebody's going to tweet something outrageous. Like, and then you start getting these people that are coming out and they're like, well, there is no meta right now. So I'm going to do something completely out of left field and, try to launch the new meta. And it's going to be either a great success or a, heaping garbage fire. And you can commentate on that.
I think for me, what happens is, as far as I could see, and again, I am pretty fresh still. I had the NFT cycle, and actually, that made sense to me because I'm one of those suckers who like the art, and obviously that's what I do art. I like the art for this stuff, and I kind of got into the whole kind of Discord community thing, and I've spoken about it before. Of like, I ate up that metaverse stuff. That kind of concept made sense to me. It felt far off, but it felt somewhat believable. Like, I knew that things weren't going to fulfill their roadmaps. I knew, like, deep down, these things, that these things can't stay up like that, and that this whole thing can't sustain. But I think what it boils down to, and I'm seeing this a lot, and I do find this to be a worrying top signal, which is these projects were coming out, NFT mints were, right? And they were hitting like 0.3 mints, 10,000, go, bang. And that's that gone from the ecosystem. Then hitting again. And I think it's attrition. It's just like a battering of people's wallets, essentially, until they give in. And that's what Photon, Pump Fun, all these major extraction events are doing day in, day out. Like that jelly thing, right? At the end of the day, it's not a zero-sum game. It's kind of bullshit that people say that. You're not on one side of the trade or another. You've got your counterparty, and in the middle, you've got these guys chipping away at that whole middle section of the trade.
Just 0.5% at a time.
Everywhere. The 0.5%, the whatever, the 1%, all these things. And enough times, like in a casino, the house edge is only 1 or 2% overall, right? That's all it needs to be. And then what you need to do is just get feet through the door and keep them playing, because you've got that tiny advantage. You've got a 1 or 2% advantage. That's all you need over time. And so you're flicking a coin, right? But essentially, there's a slight edge to one side of that coin, and eventually, over time, yes, you flick the coin 10 times, you get 5 heads, 5 tails. But over enough time, that edge is going to come out, and that's what I see happening. I saw some statistic before that I think it was CoinGuru had posted of it's 1.2 billion that these between Photon, Pump Fun, and a couple of the others have taken. And at the end of the day, that money is not, at least that I can see, flowing back into the ecosystem. I don't think Elon is about to turn around and airdrop that to everyone. I do not think that's going to happen. And so you get these mass extraction events. Like I remember this guy I knew like from a Discord way back, like messaged me in the DMs like on the down low, and he was like, "I'm working for this NFT project." And I was like, right. And he was like, I can get you a whitelist. And I was like, but what's going on? And it was like these 3D bunny things, right? So it wasn't Fluff World. It was some
I
other
was gonna say.
thing. And what it was it was a random French company, and they were just doing it over and over and over. And what they would do is they would make an okay looking 3D NFT set, right? 10,000 of them. They'd make these really high promises of what it was going to be. They'd push it through the door at like a point ETH. They'd create a Discord with like 50,000 people in, and they'd just run it again the next week or month. And this guy was being their moderator between ones. And you would get people building up into a frenzy. It said like, you know, you get courtside seats and all this shit, all these giveaways. And then they would just quietly rug, like after the mint, like really quietly run it down, just wind it down, run it again. And they'd have already started the next one with these 3D avatars, right? And they were running it over and over. And to a certain extent, the difference is this time is they're before our eyes. They are Photon, and we are welcoming them, and we are like celebrating them and saying, hey, this is great. Like, I love this. But like at the end of the day, I put something like a couple of SOL into Photon the other day, like not much. And you just shred it, just even trading, even if you're roughly breaking even on stuff, you're just shredding it and handing it over to them. And when you've got enough users, I think that's the problem, is the attrition of people's wallets that causes what you could see as like a bear market for the trenches, if you like. And the trenches last time were NFTs, and this time and extractive mints, and then this time it's this like trading bots and all this stuff that's taking these funds at such a high level without us kind of realizing it. And obviously the rugs and blah 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 of Pump Fund, I really don't think are the thing. It's the actual extraction of the fees themselves across these platforms that I think will do it, because at the end of the day, that's coming from participants' wallets. So that's a net negative as a whole to the whole thing. And if you run that for long, if you run that gauntlet, if you flip that coin enough times that's slightly rigged.
So you don't think it's on the people launching the tokens? You think it's on the exchanges that are facilitating the ability to trade them?
100%, and that's why there's so many popping up. That's why there's so many popping up that want as much mind share as possible, and will pay whatever to get the mind share. Like for me, like Moonshot has done it in such a smooth, blatant way, which is to onboard retail, to charge them high fees. Like as in the Moonshot fees are crazy. If you actually look at it, it's a slick experience, but the fees for these things are just wild when you actually lay it out over time. Like, and this is the thing, all of a sudden, so if it's me and you trading against each other, right, and we put $1,000 in each, if you win and I lose all my money, you've got 2,000, I've got 0, right? So you actually feel really good, I feel really shitty. But in truth, that's not going to happen. You're never going to get my full get. Probably after we've finished fucking around trading, you're probably going to get $1,500, and they're going to get 500. And they're going to do that between every trading pair that we've got going on and we're fighting against. And we think we're in this game against each other, but we're in a game against them. Who it's funny, we have such an objection. Like obviously, crypto has this whole thing of taxes. Oh, don't pay taxes. Oh, taxes, government, blah blah. And yet we're like, oh, 2%, 5% fee. Oh, take it. It's fine. Like, it's wild to me that
I'd be curious to know how much in fees I've paid to either, you know, BullX or Photon or to Pump Fund, like wherever it might be. I'd be very curious to know the fees, because in the NFT cycle, the whole fee that everybody used to tout about was like, I think it was like gas.wtf. And it would give you how much gas you spent for, like, you know, minting and burns and et cetera. And, you know, I think I spent like, I think it was like 30 something, 40 something ETH in gas. And obviously
I think
there's upside to that, but the same thing's happening here in Seoul.
The difference with it, the difference between those two, and I did have this kind of thought the other day of like the comparison of trading fees versus gas fees, and obviously gas fees we all paid through our teeth. But the truth is that was kind of being fed straight back into the ecosystem and split across the ETH ecosystem. So that was going to miners of ETH,
Yep.
and kind of going out as block rewards, and kind of instantly it's back into the ecosystem. It's all kind of part of it. Even if they sell, even if they choose to sell, it's still split enough. It's kind of distributed, right? Those gas fees we were paying was making the whole system run in a way that would make it go upwards, right? That would make the whole system go upwards, because all of a sudden these ETH miners are making a bunch of money. So now they're saying, "Oh shit, we want to do more validation stuff on ETH because it's going really well," and then we pay more fees because now it's getting more busy, and it kind of runs everything up together. Whereas this is just pure, that is going into someone's wallet and they're just market selling that shit and cashing it out. Like, it's very different to me in that, like, it's so transparently extractive by comparison to, I don't think you could call the gas fees extractive. You could call projects stupid for creating situations that like other side, Jesus Christ, like when people were paying 4 ETH in gas for a singular transaction. But that is a day that the ETH farmers ate good, like, and there's a lot of them, and that's the ecosystem breeding and working, and symbiosis at play. Whereas this is the guys who made Photon take your money. That's it, and that's going between a team of a couple of people. Like, they talk about Tether being the most per employee, but like these the ones that actually get some traction, they will per employee must be insane.
I think we'll see more competitors to Bullux and Photon and Moonshot and all the I know for a fact on the venture side I have seen um dozens and dozens and dozens of deals come across my desk over the last month and a half, 2 months. I think it'll get very competitive. I think fees will go down though, and I think what you'll see is a bunch of different niches for product start to come out, and yeah, I think competition's needed in that space to lower the fees and possibly even send fees to zero. I think that there's other ways that companies can be profitable and offer next to zero fees. We'll see. I've seen some good
I,
takes, some interesting takes.
I think the truth is, to a certain extent, when gas was high, it was bullish. Like, as in, and I think as we fragment
Mm.
the market with more coin creators, more things, as we notice the market's in a downturn anyway, I think they're just late to the party. And I look to Friendtech, right? So we had Friendtech, which was not a brand new idea. Obviously, there was one prior to that, which I can't remember what it was called. But Friendtech had this insanely extractive model that was like 5% each way on the sales and all this stuff.
No, it's
And so
ten
other
percent,
things,
10%.
it was 10. It was wild. It
I
was
think it
10.
was 10%.
Wasn't it? It was
Because
5%. 5% to
Tribe came out, it was 4%, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, it's so much better." And I was like, "4% still insane." Like, I know it's 6% less, but it is still insane.
it was 5% to Friendtech and 5% to the person whose key it was, I think, wasn't it? And but what happened was you saw other ones, and Tribe is just a better product. It just works better. It's cheaper. It's got like streaming on it. All this stuff doesn't matter because no one cares about it anymore. And I think to a certain extent we're going to see this with. I feel like we're going to see it with meme coins, which is no one's going to care anymore soon enough. There will be
Do you think
something
do you think
different,
we're gonna
something shiny.
do you think we're gonna cycle back to, because I know you've talked about feeling like we're at the top in some senses, but do you think that we're just in a local top for the vertical of shit, and that things that are real business models, things that are actually doing real value are all of a sudden be coming back into good light?
It's a big question mark because and I'm sure a lot of people on Twitter, we have our blinkers on for Twitter and what Twitter or X sees as valuable. And at the end of the day, what X sees as valuable is making money. and making money as fast as possible. That is the core mode, and so that was why NFTs got so big, because people were making money, and that was why meme coins got so big. And at the end of the day, whether it's a great business or not, like, this is one of the things, the moral compass you just have to throw out the window, because there are people who are known scammers, but they've got 140k followers, so they drop a coin and everyone goes, "Oh, they're a scammer, but I'll probably buy." And it's like, it's the most kind of messed up thing, because it's this belief that you can make money, whether they've got a good business model or not. It's kind of irrelevant. This thing of reading white papers, everyone's too ADHD to read a white paper. They just want to know, do I buy it? Just give me the contract address, I'll ape it. Oh, I lost some, I don't care. Like, I don't even think people know what they're buying for the most part. Like, as in, I really don't. I don't think people care, and I don't think people hold them long enough. And at that point, where there's complete almost project apathy, I think if that's not a local top for meme coins, I don't know like what is. Like, because that was kind of how it went with NFT mints. People went from wanting the project genuinely and wanting the whitelist to be a part of the community and stuff, to insta just dumping on the moment that they minted. And then it was getting faster and faster, to the point where people were dumping before it had minted out, and then all of a sudden people aren't minting anymore because it's gone below the mint price, and blah blah. And so I think it feels like we're in that inflection point now. Whether, I don't see what is a better narrative than AI coins. I don't see what is a better narrative than Trump dropping a meme coin. So in that way, what I can only, in theory, and I've seen other people saying it, in theory, AI coins go again, because it's the only narrative that makes sense. But how do you justify the valuation of these things that are just glorified chatbots? And the only one that, there's only a few that make sense.
Those aren't coming back. I can speak very, very authoritatively on this, as I guarantee you they're not coming back, Bold. There's no chance. These agents that are fucking stupid, and they're reply guying, and they offer absolutely no value. And I would say even AI XBT is on the chopping block right now for hallucinating so much. The standards for output have increased. We want better.
I think this is a funny thing. I feel like I missed the chatbot meta in terms of, because I blocked them all immediately. Like, every single one, I just blocked, like, that I saw. I think AI XBT is the only one I didn't, just to have a sense of one. I think I blocked every other one that showed up on the timeline, because I was like, I block all bots. Like, I block the things that go, "Hey, I know the best trader in the world. You should contact MetaMask for token returns." It's the same shit. It's just like, I couldn't follow those big valuations on all these ones that were popping up like left, right, and center. But again, same as NFTs, same as this stuff. Like, I remember legitimate projects like that were trying to do something, just floundering and failing because the attention was just gone. At the end of the day, attention in Twitter only shines for a few days, for the most part, and you max extract during those days, and then you quietly slink away. That's what it feels like for the most part with any of these things. You max extract as best you can. And the funny thing is, one of the things I've noticed is, when you hit that max extract, when you hit that ejector seat, no one cares if you make 5 million or 30 grand. No one cares one bit how much you make when you hit the max extract button, right? Because you are a scammer, you're done, you're over, right? That OX JPEG, wasn't it? Who got called out over 2 grand, right? Kind of burnt his whole rep, right? And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, which it's a bit of a controversial one to say, but you've got kind of Zach XBT pulling 4 million.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was insane.
But he's still here. He's still doing his thing. But at the end of the day, he can't hit that button again. He can't play that play again.
Yep.
You get like one play with your time, and you hit the max extract button as best you can. And that meteoric has gone today, hasn't he? He got 32 grand, right? He scammed his followers for 32 grand
True.
over
I see
some
it.
Aiden Ross scam,
Yep.
that Meteoseric or however you say it, right? And he's like, quit Twitter, gone, 32 grand. And the thing is, people hit this max extract button as best they can. Racer nailed it, whatever, 8 figs,
Yep.
gone, disappeared. And everyone has this point where they hit the max extract button. And for me, all those chat bots and stuff like that, they just hit it as hard as they can the first couple of days, and they know they're going to. But every so often, you have the delusional person who believes that they're going to become the longer term, whatever. But for the most part, people are just coming in and hitting the button, and the more people that come and hit it, the less there is to go around, and blah blah blah. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. The amazing one is I've seen, obviously we've had a few artist token metas over time,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what
and
your
we had
take on that was because I have to imagine you're sitting around watching all these people that you consider peers in the art community, and they're dropping these tokens and just being I just think being stupid.
I think a token, like, at the end of the day, a token is tokenized attention.
Mhm.
That's all meme coins are, is that tokenized attention. And while you have attention, they go up, and when you lose attention, they go down. And then interestingly, they go into a death spiral, and they get more attention while they go down more, because people almost like remember they have that bag, and then everyone starts talking about it. So you get peak attention on the way up and on the way down, in general. And some projects will do that whole arc within a singular day, like Jelly Jelly. You get all the attention on the way up, all the attention on the way down, and you're done. Like, whereas I think the artist ones, the problem is, for me, it's hitting that eject button, and you're potentially going to lose anything that you've built.
Yep.
So you either need to know that it's going to make you enough money that you're okay with that, or you need to know that you're already over and you're just hitting it on your way out the door. And this is the thing, you can be opportunistic with these things as well. You can ride a meta. Like, one of the most insane ones for me was obviously Dark Farms did Bohm, which was obviously hugely successful for the people who invested in it, and hugely successful for a lot of other people who bought it on the way up as well. And it created a pre-sale meta. And we had that whole huge pre-sale meta, which we'd seen before with Ben.eth, but it was kind of a more artist-based pre-sale meta for the most part, at least to start with. And I saw so many people launch one, leave Twitter, launch one, leave Twitter within days. Like, one of the ones that kind of not hurt me, like, I'm not going to be like that about it, but there was Pete Casso. Do you remember him, or Pepe Casso?
Yes.
And he used to post the ones where it was like basically hot women, and he'd just draw a little Pepe, like, stood near them.
Yep.
That was it. And I don't even know whether he drew it. I think he just kind of copy pasted it across different images. But he rugged 6 million. 6 million, I think it was.
I had no
See,
idea.
and
I had no idea.
No one remembers. No one remembers, because it was so in the flurry of craziness. No one remembers, and it was the same. And I'm actually gonna look this up to be sure. I think it was 6 or 8 million he got. You had Rocky XBT, who wasn't an artist, but he rugged about 4 million. And then who was that one? Because this is going back to another meta. What was he called? Oh, that was it. I'm gonna see, when was the last time this dude posted. Here we go. Oh yeah, awesome. Yeah, so there was a dude, we had a meta a while back. So, to speak of artist metas, if you like. And what happens is, you have this first one that everyone talks about, everyone gets excited about, that leads to these other ones. And the best time to hit your max extract button is in the flurry of other shit. Because you can hit it and you can quit and leave, and you weren't the only scammer, and therefore you can kind of just,
you weren't the
slink
main
off into
character
the
of the
darkness.
moment. You never want to be like
you
the
were-
main character, I guess, is what
You
you're
were in a
saying.
classroom of people, and you were a shitbag, but so was everyone else, right? And what happened was, I remember a while back, we had the open edition meta. And I don't know whether you were around for this one, but there was the open edition meta. And I can't remember what started it, but there was all of a sudden loads of open editions popping up that were like 0.069 ETH, That seemed to be the price of every single one. And people were minting them through their teeth. It was insane. Like people were minting like hundreds and thousands. And then what was happening was you could burn the one to get like the next level of it.
Yeah.
And there was this whole weird like open it, and it went on for a little bit. And there was a dude called Ness Graphics.
Nest
Right?
Graphics, yes, I remember him
Yeah,
from 21
Ness
cycle.
Graphics.
Yes.
Yeah, so Ness Graphics, and he was really talented, really good. And he just literally perfectly timed that little apex. And Dangoose was another one who did it, Danguise, or however you say it. There was Kevin Absock, and they all just showed up. They just pulled out a single piece of art and pulled like 2, 3, 4 million each with no kind of expectation of return. And this is the thing. I think for the most part, what's happening is people are hoping that they're in that period of time and that they're going to catch this rocket, and they're not. Like I still remember during the Boom period, there was a couple of Pepe artists who were early game, and they banded together to do a pre-sale to make a token with like a big Pepe collector, and it was like Tristan and all these other kind of ones that kind of like, you know, smaller accounts that were all banding together and going to become like the ultimate, Boom but on base or whatever was like the narrative. And you just embarrass yourself. You just like, it was just so late. They obviously took time to put it together, but it just missed the meta completely. And you end up with your tail between your legs. And I think this is the problem, is timing and attention is everything. And the truth is you're never going to hold the light on yourself for too long. So I get it. I get hitting that mass extract. I do. Because, at the end of the day, people want that kind of generational wealth moment. And I get striking it when it comes. Like it makes total sense. And I'd be silly to not consider. Is Boom really 150
It is.
mil now?
It is.
There you go. So like, what the fuck?
I've
Wow.
been
Okay.
watching the meme space very closely. I've also been doing some experiments to see who I think like Bohm was up over $1 billion in the first 48 hours, couple days.
First
Yeah.
2 days, yeah.
And obviously it's pulled back, and uh I've been fascinated trying to figure out from these top, like 10, 20 memes, which one actually is going to stay around. I mean, with Bonk, Mog, UFD, Fartcoin, all these different ones that we've seen, it's been really interesting to see whose community is still around and active, who is still showing up. And I think as much as you said, like a lot of this is done, I still think that there's some winners still to be found here, but it's not going to be. It's going to be one in 500 are gonna make it. It's a very, very difficult task to make it through an attention shift, an attention rotation.
I think I think it comes to, and I did the meme the other day that did the comic on the timeline that went down pretty well of the altcoins in 2021 and then altcoins in 2025, and he's got the same jug of liquidity to spread between them. And this is the thing. I think when you look at this stuff and you kind of ask yourself and you go, hold on, like we all accept that these things are going to go to zero, but then when they start going to zero, we all go, this is going to bounce soon. And it's like, but is it, or is it going to head and sort of slip slowly towards zero and just into like nothingness? Like as you look at NFTs, for example, once the attention is gone, like you've got top offers of either nothing or 0.0001 ETH, to sell stuff, where it's going to cost you more in gas than it is to sell it. And the thing is, some of these meme coins, like it's kind of crazy because, for example, to use FWOG, which I hate saying, as an example, you had it go to 700 million on the back of fairly big trading accounts. You had like EB7, Trader SZ, a couple of other big accounts that were using the PFP that were really pushing it. And it got all the way to 700 million. And nearly every group chat I was in was like 1 billion easy, coded, done. And as you watch the thing slip down, the problem that you get is these guys slink into the darkness and they take off the PFP They stop talking about it. So then how does it go? They talk about it a bit on the way down. Like EV7 was one I was really surprised because it was so kind of grossly done, in my opinion, on the timeline. In that, like he was bull posting it from like really heavy, from like 400 mil. But then on each dip, he was like, "I'm refilling my bags. I'm refilling my bags. I'm like bullish. We're going to whatever." And then as I kept seeing them on the timeline, it was just interesting as the coin went down to see him say, "Well, I took profits."
Do you
And
think
it was kind
all
of like,
these large accounts are 100% truthful though in what they're doing?
I think if they were, I think if they were really good at trading, they wouldn't talk about it. Um, to be honest, I think they want a trade to seem, they want a trade to seem like they want a tweet to quote back on and say "told ya." At the end of the day, that's what they all want, because then that's going to get them more attention, and that's going to get them more exit liquidity for the bags. Really, like as in, and that's, I can't understand. If I am openly not a good trader, which is why I've made a business model around my comics, right? I would never dare build up an audience on my trades to then use them as egg liquidity, because one, I'd never build the audience because I couldn't do it. But like two, I'd never want to be like, "Hey, here's this thing," and then just be blatantly dumping on them from side wallets. So I do think these traders, like in general, the larger ones, like even good traders have like a 55% hit rate. So why would you publicize that? Because you're gonna miss 45% of the time
Yep.
in public. And so, and people are gonna haul you over the coals because they're gonna see, "Oh, he hit this thing, he hit this thing, he hit the last two." And so I'm gonna go in all in with my
But
whole
that's on
sold
them. That's
portfolio on
on
this
them. As long as you're
call.
not telling them to do what you're
But
doing, then they are the fully at their own fault. And I
but why talk about it?
go no, go ahead.
But why talk about it then? Like if you're hitting the trades, why talk about it?
Oh, I mean that's a good point.
Talk about it after the fact. Unless you're trying to use them as exit liquidity, why are you talking to them about what you're doing? If your thesis is good, do it on your own.
But then let's go back to like
Like,
what Frank and Thread are doing. They're literally streaming real time what they're trading and showing like their thought process and doing it. Is that is that do you hold that in the same account or is that different?
I think that's an entirely different category. Essentially, if you buy something that Frank has bought after Frank has bought, you might as well just donate to him on the stream. Like, it's the same end goal, which is you are 100% that exit liquidity. 100%. Those guys, there is, you can say what you want and they can say what they want, and I can't prove things or whatever. But at the end of the day, they are probably never really losing a public trade, because at the end of the day, they're buying before somewhere else. They're selling as they buy it on the main, and they're already in profit. Like, my understanding is that they are each worth pretty much in that house 8 figs each at this point, from what I've heard, and they aren't intending to stop anytime soon. And the truth is, when you almost can't hit, when you almost can't miss, why would you stop shooting? Like, because that's your setup, is that you've got all of these people following you into it. And why wouldn't you? You see it on chain all the time. Mitch, like, obviously somebody's after Mitch and they're taking his account down all the whole time, was running the same game. But the difference is he wasn't doing it on stream. He was just doing it on chain. And people would follow him into trades. And then he'd openly say, "Hey, like I dumped on all of you." And people would just follow him in again. And the truth is, if you're electing to play that game, it's different, right? Frank is not proposing himself. He's not drawing lines on a chart. He's telling you he's slinging meme coins, and he's telling you he's making $1 million profit, which is coming from you, his followers. And if you choose to partake in that, you are donating to Frank. Like, that is just a fact. Whereas somebody who's purporting themselves as an excellent trader, that's different. The trust level to me is arguably different. in that situation. You're requesting somebody's trust that you're a good trader and you've seen this setup and it's hit the Fibonacci, whatever, right? And they're going, okay, this is a sensible, smart investment. And I think that's the difference. No one is following Frank into a trade, or at least I hope no one, and thinking that they're being smart. Like, no one is. And no one watching that stream is watching it for genuine investment advice. They're trying to play. It's like being in a room with 100 bowling balls rolling around and trying not to get your ankles broken. Like, you just got to keep jumping. You just got to keep hopping. But you're going to get smashed if you don't get out of the room quick enough. Like, and I think that's what it feels like for me with Frank and those guys. Like, they are not. I bet their hit rate because of followers is like 95%.
You think it's 95%
because of how they run it.
But you're putting that all on the followers. I think there's got, like, I genuinely think that there is some skill there, and I know. Yeah,
I'm not saying there's no skill.
I look. I don't know. Like, there's speculation and rumors and whatnot, about, like what you said. But that's insane. 95% would be.
I honestly think, because, okay, this is the way you run it, right? In a very simple way. You have another person on a computer buys the coin with the group wallet. You then talk about the thing, you look at it, right? And it could be a good project. In the case of Jelly Jelly, it was. Because if you're on top, you'll see enough stuff, right? Or you've got the insider track, which we know they've got. There has been evidence.
Oh, has there been, like, actual evidence?
Yeah, I think there was evidence shown around Jelly Jelly with Gigi. I think somebody actually had leaked something. Look, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm happy to get called up on it. But my point is, right, you buy up on this thing, you then buy publicly, and then once that one is 2x the entry, you sell that whole one, right? So now your risk is zero. Your risk is zero. So the coin goes down, and you can go, oh, guys, we got rugged. But you lost nothing because of that other one, right? And so I think that's why they'd hit most of the trades, because of that. But that means that if you hit a big one, you can easily hold with confidence because you've already got your initial on the one-off screen, right? So you can then hit a Jelly Jelly, because if you're in enough coins, you're going to hit the big ones. And if your entry point is kind of zero as your entry point, Jesus Christ, you're gonna kill it. So at the end of the day, it requires skill. You still have to be in the coins. You still have to be on the coins. You still have to be tapped in. You still have to be all these things. You have to build the following that watches you to be your exit liquidity. These are all actual skills. And Frank, more than anyone, I would say, in Twitter, has navigated narratives and extracted at a high level incredibly well. You cannot say he's not skilled at it, but he is the most skilled extractor of Elon. Doesn't compare to Frank, because the difference is Elon hit it big one time. He hit Pump Fun, which just got used a million times. But the reason that Frank is such a high level is because he hit NFTs hard, built a community, extracted the hell out of them, right? And then he slowly transitions to meme coins, slowly but surely. But everyone forgets the middle phase there was ordinals. Frank hit like over 100 Bitcoin on the DeGods ordinals mint. It was like a.
I must have completely missed this. I had no idea that there was an ordinals mint for DeGods.
So Frank rode from NFTs, right? He rode between all of the networks, and then he rides over to ordinals, mass extracts on ordinals while it's hot with some pixel DeGods, right? Never mention them again that I can see. Then he makes a Telegram group for his thing. Then he hits a coin. Then he hits a coin for his community, which is another extraction event for DeGods and the team, right? When that was starting to become a thing. Now the DeGods coin tanked, so he moved on. I remember Frank in Spaces talking about how it was easy $1 billion coin, and then he just sweeps it slowly under the rug. moves into this meme coin
I'm
meta.
again, I'm taking your word for most of this because clearly I'm not I'm not like fully up to date on it, but like it seems that he's like loved by his community. Like these everybody loves him, and like he's like kind of celebrated for hitting all these big wins. And I, for the most part, that's the vibe check that I've gotten from him online so far.
But yeah, because he's exceptional at extracting as much as possible. He is a success. Like that's
Hmm.
not. None of that is saying. I am saying he is very good at what he does, which is to extract as much money as possible, right? And so people can covet that, and people can get excited by that, and he does it with this um, unabashed confidence that people can only aspire to. That I think very few people can. The amount of flack and shit that he will take at every turn, and whether you think it's due or not, it doesn't change the fact that like he has moved between metas seamlessly, and that is smart. You cannot deny that. But the amount that he manages to extract at each turn is incredible. And so, yeah, you can put him on a pedestal for that 100%. 100%. But you can also say, oh my God, he is the kind of the gold standard of extractor, really. Because I think he has no allegiance to anything but building a community, which he's very good at, and then extracting as much as possible while kind of keeping in favor and keeping an interest with people. It's an insane skill set. There is no denying that his skill set is wild, and he is perfectly suited to crypto. He's perfectly suited to this game, but he is like the apex predator of this game because he managed to name another NFT founder who had one of the biggest NFT projects, right? Who has transitioned to an ordinals project leader, who transitioned to a meme coin
Yeah,
founder, who transitioned to a meme coin trader. There is no one else who's hit those peaks as he has done. And he is just riding his game. When AI coins were hot, he was talking about AGI and shit that he knew nothing about. It doesn't matter. He was making money hand over fist at every one of these turns. And yeah, you cannot deny he's exceptional at it. Like no matter which way you slice it.
it's a fascinating I think look at somebody who's done so much, and I think has I mean the views on him are so end of the spectrum. You have people that hate him, you have people that love him. Um you have people that have no idea who he is, they just know the name. It is fascinating, but I would call him a main character from this cycle for sure. Um
He is the main character, in my opinion,
you don't think it's Ansem?
because at the end of the day, no one else is gonna keep holding attention.
No. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how things play out here over the next few months. It'll be interesting to see how the LA Vape Cabal holds attention. It'll be interesting to see what Ansem does. It'll be interesting to see what Pump Fun does. I think there's certainly more fireworks to come. I don't see there being any slowdown. It'd be interesting to see what Trump does. Even who knows what they have up their sleeves still. I mean, you have Eric Trump tweeting about Ethereum. There's so much to talk about.
That
It's
was so
insane.
disgraceful. Like, but what more do you need as top signals? What more do you need? Like, that's the only reason I consider it being over is that you can look at all these graphs which have got big lines going up for alt season and Bitcoin and whatever, but at the end of the day, you can't ask for more things than that than the LA Vape Cabal making like $1 million a day, pretty much off some coin on any given day, and a lot more than that. I think in the background, like I think this is the truth. You've got such a screaming top signal that it would be silly to not at least allow yourself to consider that it might be a top
Hmm.
for a while. And people are saying 6 to 9 months. People are saying see you in 4 years. doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you're not considering that we may have peaked,
You have to
you're
be
going to be one of
considering.
those. Yeah, you're going to be one of those people who goes, "Oh shit, I should have sold," and you're going to become that classic crypto story. Like, but there you go. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to go and have some lunch.
Look, I appreciate the time. I have a one last few
Go on,
questions
hit me.
here. The last one, your PFP, as I mentioned, is looked at as a grail, and something that people, I think, aspire to own and represent. What has that process been like to see some of the biggest names repping your PFP, and who is your, like, if you could put your PFP on anybody right now and anybody could rep it, who would it be?
Well, it'd have to be Frank, but it would. It would. Where is there going to be more attention? Where at the
Get
end
the
of the
fuck out of
day,
here.
yeah, at the end of the day, where do you want more attention? Like Frank dropping the D gods would be legendary. Frank dropping the D gods, like what? That's insane. Like that would be great.
Would you do? Would you do
One
it?
of,
Would you do? Wait, here's the question: would you do art? Would you do a PF? Would you do, if he came to you and said, "Bold, I want you to draw this collection"? Would you draw a collection for Frank?
no, but I will say, and Frank can pull up the DMs on this. Now I'm really keen. I'll never share. I've got some great I've got some great DMs with Frank that I could publish and would. I'm telling you, it would like break CT. Some of the DMs me and him have, but equally, he's got ones from me when way in the before times of me asking to be when their D Gods artist dropped. I asked to do it.
Oh, no way.
I was like, yeah, because it was really public. The artist had bailed out on doing season 3, and I messaged Frank and was like, "Can I do it?" But I had like 500 followers at the time, and I sort of said, and so he could pull that one out on me equally. So no, but like one of the things I love is when somebody who has a PFP project asks me to do their PFP because I'm like, oh, this is next level. Like, so yeah, I that's like that would be the grail right now. Like Kobe obviously is the king of it, but he changes PFP so often. He has used one of mine in the past. I did one for him, and he used it for a bit, and then
Yep.
he took it off. So yeah, I've had Kobe, I've had Inverse Bra used mine for a while, and so those are kind of the grails of CT. So the next, it'd have to be the Vape Cabal. I would. Do you know what? Or Rasma, like just to really like twist the arc there. Like or the whole Vape Cabal at the same time would be like a plot twist coming out of nowhere. Like I like those ones. I am.
But they would have to. Would you
Essentially,
like? They would have to come to you and be like, "Bold, we want
yeah.
PFPs."
Everyone comes to me. I don't go to anyone. I don't ask anyone. And I always charge them, and I charge everyone the same. But there's no, in my eyes, there's no villains with it. There's no villains. Like Eugene, who obviously went on his villain arc shortly after getting the PFP from me. There's no villains in it. At the end of the day, I had a chat with Eugene. Super nice. He asked me for a PFP. Yep, great. Charge him the same as everyone else. Oh, you're a multi-billionaire. I don't care. This is the same thing. I've never done one for free.
As you shouldn't. You should not.
In fact, no. Do you know what? The only one that was for free was Kobe, but it was because it was from another comic, and I just adapted it. So I've never done one for free, and I've never done one in trade for a whitelist or anything like that. It's just this is what it is, and so yeah, it's become like really nice. Like obviously, Cold Blooded Schiller and UB from the Haven Group just got me to do one, but and obviously Keanu from Monad, like back in the day, like he's had one for a while. So it's just been this kind of I've never reached out to people. I don't ask people to do it. I don't ask people. In fact, the only one I did ask was Maine. And that's because I fucking hate his PFP. I was like, mate, you've got to change this, please. Just let me do one. Let's work together. Let's make one. And he was like, nah.
Oh
And
my
he makes his
god.
banner like horrendous as well. So I've definitely like I think I've got probably 100 and something requests at the moment in my DMs, which is why I shut off my DMs because I actually can't deal with the volume, which is a very nice problem to have. But I just kind of closed down that. But yeah, there's a few grails. I think right now, Frank would be the grail, because it would also also just be super Frank to just leave his community of D gods behind And I just think it would be like a talking point. And at the end of the day, my point is to just be that as much as possible. Like as much as I poke everyone and Ansem even, I'd love to do an Ansem one with him, but he's never asked, and I'm not going to ask him. But I think my aim is to just be this kind of like little guy, like stabbing jokes through the whole timeline about everyone, but kind of getting along with everyone. Like I really don't, like I say, I don't hold dislike at all for like anyone, even like ruggers. Like I don't mind. I'm just kind of like here for the ride. And so if anyone asks, I'll say yeah. Zach XBT would be a nice one,
That'd be
but like
massive.
his is so iconic. Like I think I spoke to him about it. I said, "Would you ever change the PFP?" kind of thing. I think quite early on, I spoke to him about it, and he was like, "Oh, it's too embedded." And there's a couple of people who are like that, who just say it's been too long,
Yeah.
and I just don't feel like. Even some people commission me for ones, but then don't use them.
Hmm.
So like Mercury, Trader Mercury, he's got one, but he doesn't use it. There's a couple of others as well who've hired it just to have it as like part of a collection. They just kind of keep it and
Interesting.
don't use it. So yeah, there you go.
Oh. Well, Bold, I gotta thank you for the time. Extremely generous. Always love to hear your commentary on your journey in the market and all of your experiences and takes. Appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next one for sure. And looking forward to your next comic and today's comic, of course. But thank you
Yeah,
very much,
it's
man.
about to come
Appreciate it.
out. I was halfway through it. I'm hacking at Barachain. I sent it to
Oh,
Smokey before about Barachain because I was like, "Fuck you guys, you didn't give me an airdrop." so it's gonna be about them bastards.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to it. Well, thank you, man, once again for coming on, and thank you to everybody who tuned in. Appreciate you as always. We'll catch you on the next one.